But interestingly, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks, Allah speaks more about divorce than the nikah in the Quran. Do you know that? Um, there's a separate surah named Surah At-Talaq. Did you find Surah Nikah in the Quran? Um, and there are wisdom which scholars mention, which I'm going to explain. But tonight we are starting this, and I just want to take first 10-15 minutes to explain the etiquettes and what's the beauty behind this. Which mazhab we are following? Hanafi? You can follow whatever, but in the slides we are following Hanbali mazhab, and we are covering comparative taste, like all the major mainstream opinions within the Muslim tradition or our heritage. Okay, let's start, inshallah. Should we start, Saad? Okay, let's start, inshallah. So, a lot of young men, there are articles, if you Google it, a lot of young men in mainstream America do not want to get married. I'm talking about mainstream American, not Muslim community. Mainstream American or non-practicing Muslim, because the modern society have disconnected relationship between man and woman and marriage. So you can have that before marriage. So they would think, what's the point of getting the responsibility when we are enjoying the relationship anyway? And then on top of that, divorce is so complicated in the court system. I don't know about Texas, but in Massachusetts, it would take anywhere for simple divorce to 9 months to 12 months to occur, the entire court system and proceedings. And if finances are involved, then just forget it. And I'm pretty sure Texas is not very easy that within a day, husband and wife can actually come out of this. It depends. Okay. But if divorce is so catastrophic and disastrous, even from the legal standpoint, it's already not healthy for the psychology, then people do not want to get married. I'm talking about mainstream Americans. Um, we are in dire need. We have the God-centric way of looking at how to start the relationship and how to end the relationship. So our Sharia is for us so that we can abide by that. But if you're talking to any non-Muslim or not knowledgeable Muslim, you can talk about the fiqh of divorce, Sharia method of dissolving the relationship, and you will find out that actually it can be one of the ways of dawah, because they are really struggling about what are the fine line of the rights and responsibilities at the time of divorce. They're still struggling because their epistemology doesn't come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what we were going to do, we're going to start this inshallah today. I want you to pay attention to these three terms. One is talaq, second is khul, third is fasq. These are the three kind of separation we're going to have discussion for next three classes. Today we're going to discuss talaq. Second, maybe in the next setting we're going to discuss what? Not khula. Fasq. And then third we're going to discuss khul. The sequence should have been that way. What is talaq? What is talaq? Divorce. Okay. In Islamic sense, talaq is only divorce which is issued by men. A woman cannot issue a talaq. Is that clear? And we're going to discuss that. Khul' is the separation initiated by wife, woman. Okay? Fasq is annulment of the marriage contract. Annulment or the law enforced in the legal system, in the Sharia system, dissolution of marriage as if it never happened completely, annulling. This can only be done by the means of the qadi, verdict, or shari'i ruling, just FIR. So there are three separations we're going to discuss. Most of the people don't know the difference, and therefore they will have a lot of confusion in their mind. First is men initiating divorce, that's what we're going to discuss tonight. Then second is khula, which is woman initiating, and third is fasq, which is enforced by the qadi or by the authoritative body, which we're going to discuss, inshallah, how it can be applied in America when we don't have any jurisdiction. Is that clear? And it's very detailed, by the way, because this is a sensitive topic, controversial topic. I know some of you might have experience in your family or in your own life, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for everyone. Ameen ya Rabb. Don't get emotional. If you have any question, inshallah, I'm going to give you enough time. Don't ask me about your personal life stories. If your spouse is here, don't play dirty games by asking the questions so that make sure your spouse can listen to those answers. Don't do that. But if you have a disagreement, inshallah, ask me after the class because we have limited time. I already took so much in introduction. I haven't even started this, subhanAllah. Okay, now let's start. The etiquettes and adab of divorce. You know, I told you this in the beginning that we Muslims, we know how to start the relationship, but we don't know how to end the relationship. Um, the kinds of accusation which husband and wife are going to put on each other when they're getting divorced. I don't know if you have noticed that. The kinds of accusation is humongous. Um, then the issues with child custody, spreading lies about your ex in the community so that he or she can never get married in community, spreading lies on social media, on Facebook, on WhatsApp messaging, putting seed of hatred in your child's mind about your ex when you are doing single parenting. All of these are real issues, yes or no? Unfortunately. Spreading rumor in the community so that your ex won't able to breathe. This happens in our community. And I'm talking about DFW. Don't go far. Don't go to Massachusetts, Habibi. Stay here. Not paying your financial dues. Abusing religion or making it difficult for your ex to come out of your toxic relationship. Or making complicated the process of divorce so that the other person can struggle in the system. All these ugly habits just expose who we really are. So, why, by the way, someone might say, why we are giving so much time to divorce? Let's say if they are not coming from Shari paradigm. If you are going in plane, your by default understanding is plane will land safely, right? But every flight will going to say that there are some passenger announcement and there is an emergency landing announcement. If oxygen goes, what you have to do. Because the assumption is the plane will land safely. But just in case, you need to know these principles. So I'm not desynthesizing that okay, divorce should be very easy and all those things. I hope that inshallah our marriages last forever, inshallah. But there are times when you have to divorce and you have to seek separation, so you need to know the proper method, inshallah ta'ala. And before we can start the fiqh of it, I should give a separate khutbah on this. We think and plan so much about marriage, yes or no? We do istikhara, we ask this friend, that therapist, that therapist, premarital counseling, multiple sessions. But when it comes to divorce, just one word and khalas. Is that wisdom? Subhanallah. There's a small checklist before we can start this. First checklist, if even a thought of divorcing your spouse comes in your mind. First is communicate with your spouse. I have this problem with you. Let's fix it. Many times we keep it in our heart. We think it's sabr. It's not sabr. It's not sabr. It will blow out of proportion one day. Tell your spouse that this is the problem, and if you won't fix it, things might go in the direction of south. Communicate. Second, if it doesn't help, wise family, wise friends should help. Wise family members and wise friends should help. Then, if it doesn't help, go to therapist and arbitration. I'm not saying the sequence is important. Maybe you can go to therapist before. Sharia compliant therapist, arbitration. If nothing is helping, do istikhara. For marriage, you do istikhara? Yes or no? For divorce, also do istikhara. It's a big decision. Your entire family, especially kids, are involved. They were going to have issue. Do istikhara. And then, if nothing is working and still relationship is going into a toxic direction, then give a sunnah divorce. Which divorce? Okay, I have to tell you what is this. You know what is sunnah divorce? Divorce are two kinds. I hope we can discuss it today. There's Sunni and there is Shia, right? No. Sunni and Bid'i. Someone might say, oh, it's same thing. No, I'm kidding. Okay. Come back. By the way, Saad, you need to edit these jokes, okay? No, you need to edit it. Okay. When you divorce your wife, the proper etiquette, which we call Sunni divorce, is you are divorcing your wife after all these checklists, after the menstruation, before having relationship. Are you following? After the menstruation, before having relationship, only one, not 3 times, only one. That is called a Sunni divorce. If you divorce her in menstruation, if you divorce her after having relationship before the menstruation, then this is called as talaq bid'i. This is not Sunni, this is not the recommended, this is haram according to vast majority of scholars. Okay? And we're going to talk about this, but if you are planning to divorce, fulfill that checklist and then issue a Sunni divorce. Is that clear? This is, by the way, Sharia put these guidelines so that it cannot be done in a rush of blood. Just like you take time for nikah, similarly Sharia put this as a complicated guideline so that you can take time. It's not a rush of blood. But we'll talk about those things inshallah as we're going to continue. And if you decide to divorce your wife, then in some cases you have to give mut'ah. What is mut'ah? It's different than chapter of nikah. It's a chapter of divorce. Alimony. There's a concept of alimony we'll discuss inshallah separately. And it depends on the reason of divorce and who's initiating the divorce. But anyway, by the way, the family is like any form of partnership. When it gets toxic, for all the people involved in the partnership or family, it might be wise to just dissolve that family, dissolve that partnership. Otherwise, it will harm the people in the partnership or in the family. So, to relieve them of the hardship, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed with His wisdom divorce. Some people have confusion that why divorce is even permissible. SubhanAllah, it's just lesser of the two evils. It's lesser of the two evils. If divorce is haram completely all the time, you know what can happen? It can result in domestic violence. Do you want to pick the janazah of your daughter? Tell me. We had one sister here in the similar issue. I don't want to go into the detail. Just 5-6 months ago. I led the janazah. These are happening. Alhamdulillah, our community, Muslim community, is far lesser, alhamdulillah. Because in mainstream Americans, if you Google it, domestic violence every day, it's huge. It's huge. Then if divorce is haram all the time, infidelity can increase. And that's obviously, these things will take us to haram. And sometimes we are in the toxic relationship, we have tried everything, nothing is working. But still, if you are saying divorce is haram, what people are going to say, Maza yaqulun nas, log kya kahenge? This kind of mentality can actually push us towards certain haram things. Okay, what did Prophet Muhammad said about divorce? Tell me. He said, Abghadul halal inda Allah at-talaq. What's the translation of this hadith? Tell me. Come on, this is easy. We all have heard this. Sheikh Lacy, what's the translation of this hadith? I know you know this. Yes. Yes, mashallah. The most disliked, the most hated, we can translate books as disliked or hated. The most disliked thing to Allah among the permissible thing is divorce. How many of you have heard this hadith? Raise your hand. Sisters, okay. So now my question to you is, if this hadith is sahih, then why great people in our past, like companions, they divorced their wife? And I'm waiting for your answer. Yes. Not haram. Okay. First of all, majority of the hadith scholars say this hadith is da'if. Write this down. Write this down. By the way, remember last time I told you you are students of knowledge, not Friday audience. What you should ask when I would say hadith is da'if, what you should ask? According to whom? Okay? So it's sahih according to As-Suyuti, Imam Suyuti, rahimahullah, which is known as Mutasahil in hadith, Ibn al-Mulaqqin. But it's da'if according to Ibn Hajar, Ibn Qayyim, Bayhaqi, and Ibn Hibban, Ibn Jawzi, Imam Albani, Imam Shawkani, Abu Dawud. Da'if according to so many scholars. I'm just telling you that you should know this. Okay? But still, we can take the meaning that when it's warranted, when it's required, for some reason, then it can be considered as, because scholars say that sometimes divorce is makruh also. Did companions divorce their wife? Or did female companion sought khula, what do you think? The answer is yes. Now my question to you is, and just raise your hand, don't say yes or no. Did Prophet ever divorce his wife? Raise your hand if you know. Hibban knows, but I want to give other people a chance. Sister Aisha, that's very good. Should I ask Sister Aisha or Hibban? Hibban? Okay, Hibban. Yes, mashallah. Do you remember the name of the wife? No? Maria was not the wife, you know this, right? Okay. Hafsa, mashallah, Hafsa. Very good. He divorced Hafsa in the hadith in Abu Dawud. But that divorce was one of the kinds of divorce, when you divorce your wife and you take her back. That's one divorce, not three. One divorce and then you take her back. That's called talaq-e-raj'i. Okay? Is that the only divorce Rasulullah gave, or there was any other divorce also in the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Tell me. Come on. Okay, there's a hadith in Bukhari. Hadith in Bukhari. There is a woman called, her name was mentioned in Bint al-Jawn. Bint al-Jawn. The other narration mentions Umayma bint Sharahil. Anyway, she was married to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This hadith is mentioned in Bukhari. And after the marriage contract and before the consummation, following, Rasulullah, after the marriage contract, went to her and she said, after the marriage contract, the first time when she spoke to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, وَهَلْ تَهَبُ الْمَلِكَ نَفْسَهَا لِلسُّوقَ? Can a princess give herself in marriage to an ordinary man? So she was saying that, can I, being a princess from such a royal, wealthiest family, give myself to, and this, by the way, we can say that she might not know the status of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in terms of, but I will tell you what the commentators have said. Then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam tried to console her by moved his hand, so she might become tranquil and calmed. So she said, "A'udhu billahi minka." She said, I seek refuge of Allah, protection of Allah against you. So Rasulullah says, "Qad usti bim'ath." You have sought refuge of someone who gives refuge. So I was going to leave you. And then he called his companion Abu Said, and then he says, give her clothes, uqsuha, give her risk, give her clothes, give her alimony, and take her to her family. Did you see something? Did Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam make a big fuss that you are such a big loser? Did Rasulullah say this? She needed divorce after the contract, before the consummation. Rasulullah gave her divorce. Rasulullah gave her additional alimony. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam dealt it in a very decent way. You know what we are learning here, subhanAllah? And she was in that situation where most of the women would love to be in that situation. Wife of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But this shows us one thing before we can start. If Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam reported to have gone through the process of divorce at least twice according to Sahih Hadith, Abu Dawud and Sahih Bukhari, the culture of looking down on the divorce and the divorcee all the time, we should not make it a normative practice. Like in America, every other couple is divorced for small reasons. That's obviously not acceptable. But to look down on divorce and divorcee on every matter, regardless of the circumstances, then what you will think about Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? What do you think about Zayd and Zainab and all the different companions? So we need to come up with different paradigm to understand this. And I have made this. When divorce, what do you think? If you see 5 rulings, haram, halal, do we have that? Okay, we have this. Okay, what do you think when divorce will be, what's the by default status of divorce? Is divorce haram? Is divorce makruh? Is divorce wajib? What do you think? Yes, no, Sheikh Hibban, you're done for today. Come next week. If no one answers, then I'll come to you. What do you think? Yes. Makruh. That's very good. According to good number of scholars, it's makruh. By default. Yes, Sheikh Hibban. Depends. MashaAllah, MashaAllah, MashaAllah. I'm not saying that you are my son. That's why I'm exaggerating in MashaAllah. But Ibn Qudama says divorce can have these 5 status. It can be haram. It can be makruh. It can be permissible. It can be sunnah. And it can be wajib. Okay? Now, when are those circumstances? Um, First of all, when divorce can be haram? Tell me. I just told you. Let me see how many of you remember. When divorce can be haram? Hibban, you're done. How you know about the matter of divorce, man? You're not even married. Okay, tell me. Mm. It's smiling, huh? MashaAllah, MashaAllah. Tell me. Okay, Ban, tell me. May Allah give you a righteous wife, inshallah. Say, all of you say Ameen. Alhamdulillah. What's the problem? You don't need righteous wife or you don't need a wife? Tell me. Okay. Okay. No, Ban, I'm kidding. Okay, tell me. Okay, no. Someone else, yes. I'm just teasing with him as a dad. You're not supposed to do that with Hibban, okay? Yeah. Yeah, what kind of divorce? When it will be haram? Yes. So no, but that will be wajib. Yeah. So, yeah. So let's say first. Remember I told you when you're divorcing your wife in menstruation, vast majority of scholars say this is haram. When you're divorcing your wife in after having relationship before the menstruation come, vast majority of scholars say this is haram. You should wait until the menstruation is over and you're not having relationship, then you should divorce. Is that clear? And then furthermore, one more reason when it will be haram to divorce your wife. By the way, why we are discussing about divorce? Why not about khula? Because we are just discussing about divorce. About khula, we'll discuss next week. Then all the examples will be given for sisters. So don't think it's one gender is dominating here. When we discuss about khula, I'm going to give sisters only example. Okay. When it's completely unwarranted, unjustifiable, then it's haram to divorce your wife. Like your wife is fulfilling your rights as a wife, rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. She's a good wife and still you are divorcing, then it will be haram. You will get a sin of a haram. She didn't give you any reason why you are divorcing her. Is that clear? Um, second, second, to divorce your wife when it's makruh, not haram. Sometimes it can be makruh. Like if it's unjustifiable with less intensity, we can say based on intensity, it's makruh or haram. It's also makruh, by the way, when you think that I will divorce my wife and then you have a fear of going into zina. Then it's also makruh to divorce your wife. Why do you want to do this? Means you have halal, tayyib, risk, and then you want to eat filth from the market. Why do you want to do that? Just think about it. Third, mubah, permitted. When it's permissible, when divorce is permissible, you will neither get a sin nor you will get a reward. When prompted by, let's say, spouse, consistent, persistent misconduct, disrespectful attitude, even though they are good in praying and fasting, but in terms of the spousal right, they are not good. Or you don't like your spouse at all because of these consistently disrespectful attitude, then it's mubah. Fourth, when it's recommended to divorce your wife. Tell me. By the way, vice versa is the cases for the khula, most of the time. But we'll discuss khula separately because there are a few other issues in khula. Tell me, when is recommended to divorce? When there's a severe conflict and when the woman or let's say spouse, if you're taking khula, is not observing the rights of Allah, but it's not affecting the entire family. Then it's recommended because obviously rights of Allah. Obviously, you have to put this, obviously, you have to make sure that apply this in a generous way, in a charitable way. If you will abuse the fiqh, you will end up being an abusive person. All of us are not fulfilling the rights of Allah as He deserves. Yes? So just remember this. I'm talking about major, major issues. When it's wajib to divorce your wife or when it's wajib to seek khula, let's say, when it's wajib. So in terms of the talaq, divorce, wajib is when your spouse is cheating. Okay? Now, when that spouse is willing to do tawbah, now then it's up to you. Whether you want to divorce or whether you want to keep your spouse because they are willing to improve. Sharia didn't give enough guidance, but Sharia just talk about generalities. Is that clear? Sheikh Zuhaili also added, it will be wajib when you are afraid. That's what Abdullah was saying. Where's Abdullah? Okay. Abdullah was saying, when you are afraid to pay her rights, let's say nafaqa, then you should release her and don't do zulm on her because it will be wajib. Okay. Now, let me ask you this. What's the by default ruling of talaq? Divorce. Out of all these five. Usually, fasting in Ramadan is by default is wajib. Fasting on Monday is by default sunnah. Talaq in usual circumstances is haram, makruh, wajib, what it is. Makruh according to majority. Hanafis and Ibn Taymiyyah say this is haram by default. Okay? Just write this down. Malikis have different ruling. Okay, let me tell you a few hadiths and then we're going to go into some complicated stuff. I hope, inshallah, we can finish it around 8:50, inshallah. First, what's the evidence of talaq being haram by default? First evidence, Rasulullah says, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, la darara wa la dirara fil Islam. There is no harm and there is no reciprocating of the harm. And obviously, which harm can be bigger than divorcing where an entire family is dissolved? Then there is hadith in Sahih Muslim. It's a hadith, Rasulullah is telling that Iblis is having his Shura conference. And then Iblis is asking to the people, subordinates of Iblis, mini shayateen, that what you have done today, what you have done today. So the mini shaitan would say, fa'altu kaza wa kaza, I have done this and this and this. And Iblis would hear this and Iblis would say, ma sana'ata shay'an, you haven't done anything. Until a shaitan will come and they would say, ma taraktuhu hatta farraqtu baynahu wa bayna imrati. Today I've done something remarkable. My chief minister, Iblis, I have actually caused separation between the husband and wife. And then Iblis will going to say that, ni'ma ant, you have done something. You are the one. Means if you have studied Quran and Sunnah text, you will going to understand that the most beloved act to the shaitan is to cause discord between the husband and wife in terms of social life. So when there is a need, but not a desperate need, then it's makruh. But otherwise, knowing the consequences of divorce, even my inclination is towards Ibn Taymiyyah and the Hanafis here, knowing the consequences, but majority says it's makruh by default. Okay. By the way, why divorce right is given to the men, not women? Sisters, what do you think? What do you think? If someone asks you, whether Samantha or Sister Maryam, that Islam is patriarchal, misogynistic, what are the other terms? Whatever the terms are. What will be your response? That first of all, your response should be that do not use analogy of the word divorce in English in Islam, in the legal US system and the Islamic system, because in Islam, separation caused by the husband is called as talaq. Separation caused by the wife called a khula. So Islam gave complete right to the wife for the khula. So the assumption is not right. So when someone asks you this, you say, no, Islam give right to the woman to seek separation, and that is called khula, but not talaq. And the process is different. By the way, in Hanafi fiqh also, I'm not a big fan of this, sisters, so I'm just telling you, we discussed in prenuptial agreement. Vast majority have denied, but in Hanafi fiqh, if you have a prenuptial agreement, they call it talaq al-tahfiz. If you have a prenuptial agreement that she can divorce herself, then, and if a husband signs it, then she have a right to divorce, use the divorce right, and she can divorce herself. I'm not a big fan of this. In the time of where masculinity is being stripped away from the men, this is a recipe to disaster. We may end up just raising the boys, not the men. But we can discuss about this later. Thirdly, why a man can divorce, use talaq, is because he's taking financial responsibility. There is less chance of abuse. So let's say if a husband and wife decides that mahar amount will be $50,000, right? And next day, if wife wants to abuse this, let's say if wife have the right of divorcing herself, after the next day of marriage, she says, okay, I'm divorcing myself and taking $50,000 as mahar. There's a chance of abuse if you are going to give that right. Is that clear? So Islamic paradigm doesn't go with equality. Islamic paradigm goes with complementarian approach. Is that clear? Rational and empirically, by the way, empirically speaking, in US in 2024 or 2023, I think, who initiated divorce more, men or women? MashaAllah, all of you know. Let them say. Who initiated divorce more? Women, 70% women and 29, 30%. 71% women, 29% men. Um, Now, when you see Islamic paradigm, Islam gave a right to the woman to initiate khula, separation, but the process is not immediately you are divorced, I'm seeking khula. Process might take few weeks. You will go to an authority or a qadi and say, I need a khula, so it will give you a thinking time. Versus divorce in the case of men, if he says anti talik, you are divorced, then one divorce will occur. So in the case of khula, women will going to get ample amount of time to think of the consequences in Islamic paradigm. But you talk about khula when we're going to, inshallah, maybe discuss, next time we're going to discuss Fiqh annulment, and then for following week, we're going to discuss khula in detail, inshallah, and how that khula will be applicable in our time in America. Okay, let's discuss quickly valid and invalid divorces. Do we have here valid and invalid? Yes, alhamdulillah, we have it here. Okay, quickly. Divorce of mentally ill, insane person. If an insane person divorces his wife, is the divorce valid? Let's say Donald Trump. No, I'm kidding. Okay, I was talking about Manali, but the Sharia doesn't apply on them. So whether they are insane or sane, I don't know. Okay, let's apply. Divorce of a mentally ill, insane person. Is it applicable? Is it valid? The answer is his divorce will be invalid. But Sharia differentiate between the insane person and the foolish person. Insane person is a person who is mentally, intellectually incompetent. He cannot make a decision and think about the consequences. Like, see, when you go, there is a APA, American Psychological Association. If you go with their definition of mental health issues, all of us have some kind of mental health issues. We are not going with the modern definition that even a small disorder, they now in DSM, they say this, DSM-5, that even if you have a shame, haya, you have a social anxiety disorder. And Rasulullah says, al-haya min al-iman. So we cannot take that their definition objectively and apply in our Sharia, because modern psychology is different than Islamic psychology or Islamic paradigm. But anyway, if you have a serious mental health issue in such a way that you are mentally incompetent, then your divorce won't be valid. Okay, second, divorce under compulsion. Is it valid? The answer is majority of them said it's invalid. Only Hanafi says it's valid, but we are not discussing that, inshallah, okay? Third, divorce under intoxication. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us all from intoxication. I mean, does Muslim drink? Yeah, I have seen, even though I'm with the masjid work for the last 15 years, but I have seen Muslims drinking. So you guys are doing those happy hours. You must have seen every now and then, right? Some of your friends drink, right? That's a reality. Sometimes you might have tried. And maybe you are sitting here, you are still drinking. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us all. Ameen ya Rab. As long as you are willing to come back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves that, inshallah. So if a person drinks and he divorces his wife, does that divorce count? Who said yes? And who said no? Okay, remember this. The divorce by a man who is intoxicant mistakenly, that doesn't count according to anyone. Or if he is taking medicine which makes him like, okay, then divorce doesn't count. But according to vast majority of scholars, including 4 Imams, Hanafi, Shafi, Maliki, Hanbali, that's 4 of them, the one who consumes intoxicant inexcusably, then his divorce will be valid. Is that clear? Because they argue that this intoxicated person was not deprived of his intellect. He himself impaired himself. But wait a minute. There is an opinion by Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, Ibn Hazm rahimahullah, and some of the other Hanafi Hanbali scholars, they said that no, in this case also, even if he's drinking by himself with full intention, divorce won't count. This is not the 4 mazahib, but this is Ibn Taymiyyah's opinion, this is Ibn Hazm's opinion. Their evidence is that there is one report from Usman radiyallahu anh that he issued the fatwa that a person who is drinking, his divorce should not be considered. I'm telling you this, that when you are looking at the divorce complications. It's not very straightforward. The different scholars have a different perspective out of it. Okay, divorce in a joke. What do you think? Brothers, I know you love a lot about joking. Tell me, divorce in joking. Huh? It will happen? Yes or no? There is no disagreement. Why? Because there is a clear hadith. When there is a clear hadith, no imam will even dare to disagree. When there is speculative arguments, then imams are going to give their opinion. The hadith says, and this hadith mentioned Abu Dawud, Tirmidhi, Ibn Majah, ثلاث جدهن جد وهزلهن جد النكاح والطلاق والرجعة. That there are three things. Seriousness will be serious and joking will be serious in those three things. What are those three things? Nikah, talaq, divorce, and taking your wife back after your divorce her, like ruju. These three things, even if you're joking, it will be consequential. By the way, nikah is also in one of those things. So you cannot say to, let's say, sister, what's the capital of Afghanistan? Kabul. Okay, mashallah. That's it. Right? No. Okay, this is, come back. Okay, this is MSA joke, okay? By the way, Kabul is one of the capital. I think it's capital, right, of Afghanistan? Okay. But I was thinking, this is my own observation, that why Rasulullah never wanted us to joke about nikah and divorce and rujur is because he's like saying that there are guardrails for your jokes. These matters will go beyond those guardrails. Nikah and divorce, because these can involve other parties. You can hurt the feelings of others. So there's a difference between joking and mocking, and joking and bullying, right? Okay. Fifth, divorce in severe anger. By the way, these are the last three which are the most controversial. Okay. Divorce in severe anger. What do you think? Will divorce be valid if a husband divorces his wife in a severe anger? What do you think? Yes. How many of you think yes? Raise your hand. How many of you think no? Okay. Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah says anger is of three kinds. Anger can be divided in three kinds. First, when you are anger in such a way, have you seen some people, when they get angry, they become insane completely? They don't know what is coming out of their mouth. That anger can lead to insanity. That's the first kind of anger. If this is the anger, according to all these scholars, the divorce won't count because it makes you insane. Is that clear? Second kind of anger is the ordinary type of anger. When it's not very intense, it's not making you insane, but still you are uttering. According to all these scholars, divorce will be counted. Divorce will be considered valid. Is that clear? By the way, we all divorce our wife when we are angry. No one says, I love you, Habibati, and then talaq. No one does that. So you have to make certain classification that, okay, anger is valid, anger is. The third kind is that where you will going to have a lot of disagreement. Is that a person is very angry, he is still aware of what is going on, but his anger is so intense that it makes him or pushes the words of divorce and immediately he regrets it. This particular kind is where the scholars have disagreement. And the mufti or qadi, local qadi, will going to decide after talking to husband and wife whether he was in that stage or not. Is that clear? It's not very simple. There are a lot of exercises done by these scholars. So first group of scholars, that's majority, they say no, divorce will be counted in this kind of anger also. The second group of scholars, which is Hanafi, and some Hanabala, Ibn Taymiyyah, and Ibn Qayyim and others, they would say, no, if you are that kind of anger, if you have that kind of anger, that you don't, that you are aware of the surrounding, but you say divorce, and then you are regretting. Then these group of scholars, Hanafi, Ibn Taymiyyah, Ibn Qayyim, and some other Hanbali scholars, they say in this kind of anger, divorce doesn't count. The biggest argument is that they have a rational argument, that in this anger mode, you don't control your words. They have the hadith also, but that hadith have weak traceability. They say, La talaqa fi ighlaq. There is no divorce when your mind is ighlaq, closed. But this hadith have controversial traceability to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If you have this issue, go back to the mufti and sheikh and imam and let them deal with it. Oh, okay. The biggest controversy in scholarly perspective from the divorce. I'm trying to summarize the entire discussion. Each and every discussion will take 30, 40 minutes. It will go into detail. Okay, this is the biggest controversial. When I divorce my wife, how many times I can divorce? 3. By the way, why 3 divorce? Why not 4 divorce, sisters? Why not 5 divorce? Why not 1 divorce? Why 3 divorce? What do you think? Huh? MashaAllah, MashaAllah. So you are really learning Hanbali Mazhab and Aqidah, MashaAllah. Um, but what is the rationale behind it? Huh? So that's good. But is there any other psychological reason, do you think? Obviously, whatever we are discussing is ijtihadi issue, so you can disagree with me. Scholars commented on this and they said, many a times it's difficult to move on. You're going to have a divorce one. You must have seen people in your community and family, and then they will say, no, 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 let us go back. We have this, we have kids. And then they will go second time and then again divorce, something will happen. And then say, no, 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 we don't have any option. They will do third time. If Allah didn't put the restriction, it was difficult to move on. Allah says, 3 is enough, move on now. Try something else before you can try this again. Right? You might think Sharia is strict. Sharia is actually, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows our psychology more than us, right? Allah is created. Allah ya'lamu man khalaq. Sometimes it's difficult to move on. Now you have to move on. Restart your life. But anyway, so there are 3 divorce, right? Okay, if I divorce my wife, I divorce you, I divorce you, I divorce you. Or let's say you say, I divorce you 3 times. If you say this, is it considered 3 or is it considered 1? That is the major discussion. Yes, Brother Nadeem, I think I know your answer. 1. MashaAllah, MashaAllah. Who says it will count as 3? Sabur, what do you think? It's your wife, is it? Alhamdulillah. 1. MashaAllah, MashaAllah, MashaAllah. Okay. Sisters, what do you think? If you divorce, you're divorced in the same gathering. 1? It depends. But what do you think? 1. All of you are saying 1. Okay. Now I will tell you something, and we have to depart from Hanbali Mazhab for a minute. All the mainstream school of thought, that's Hanafi, Maliki, Shafi'i, come on, Hanbali. They say if you divorce your wife 3 times in a gathering, it will be considered as 3 divorce. Done deal. And if you will, by the way, all of you said 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. I'm giving you hope, inshallah. But I'm telling you, this is the mainstream opinion. And we cannot say, no, because logic and common sense says this, all of our scholars did not have a common sense. No, you should be, first of all, you should get a life, have some generosity, have some charitable approach when you're talking about the scholarship of our tradition and heritage for 1,200 years. Okay. The other group of scholar, they would say, and by the way, it's not only Ibn Taymiyyah, but Ibn Taymiyyah is the biggest name in the other group of scholar. Why he was the biggest name? Any idea? Because he got jailed because of this. How many times Ibn Taymiyyah got into jail? 6 to 7 times. Now people say that I'm Ibn Taymiyyah of America in the air-conditioned environment, sitting in the lap of the government. Ibn Taymiyyah got into jail for 6 and 7 times. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase his status. Ameen ya Rabb. So Ibn Taymiyyah and other group of scholars will come to that. They say no, it will be considered as 1, not 3. I don't have time to discuss the evidences, but let's go briefly. And then we're going to give our solution, inshallah. First, what's the evidence of majority of the 4 imams? The majority said that it's ijma'. Ijma' means consensus. But clearly there is no consensus because Ibn Taymiyyah was going to bring evidences. So consensus report might be challenged. The other majority were going to say this is sunnah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But they would bring the hadith of Abu Rukana, a companion who divorced his wife. But this hadith have multiple narrations. Sometimes the narration supports the wordings, support the majority. Sometimes it will support the view of Ibn Taymiyyah. So this cannot be used from both the sides. Third, they were going to say vast majority of the ummah is doing it. Why do you want to do it? So let's come to the other group, the minority group, Ibn Taymiyyah group. By the way, Ibn Taymiyyah was going to bring the argument that it's not only me, it's some of the companions have this. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, Abdurrahman ibn Auf, Zubair ibn al-Awam, Ibn Abbas, Taus, Ata, even Tabi'i, Even Ibn Ashur, Maliki scholars and others, they all had this, the divorce should be 1, not 3, if you're divorcing 3 times. So Ibn Taymiyyah says that I'm not the only one. And this divorce should be 1 instead of 3, even if you divorce multiple times, is actually the legal court system of Egypt, of Syria, and of Jordan. Before we can try to see the departure from the 4 mazahib, because it's very important. For us, we should stay within the 4 mazahib, because that's the mainstream. Unless you are a mujtahid like Ibn Taymiyyah, a qualified scholar, and this have some backing in the Sharia, and also this opinion have a widespread acceptability. Like I told you, Egypt, Syria, Jordan is still at the country level, they have 1 divorce, even if you divorce 10 times in a gathering. Okay. What are their evidences? There are many evidences, but the biggest evidence which I could find is actually in the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Baqarah, "At-talaqu marratan fa-imsakum bi-ma'ruf aw tasrihun bi-ihsan." Divorce is twice. There's the ayah. Then keep your wife in a beautiful way, acceptable way, or depart her in a good treatment. Then next ayah Allah says, فَإِن طَلَّقَهَا فَلَا تَحِلُّ لَهُ مِن بَعْدُ حَتَّى تَنْقِهَا زَوْجًا غَيْرًا. And if he has divorced her for the 3rd time, means after the 2 divorces, Allah is mentioning the 3rd divorce. Then she can marry a husband other than him, and then if they divorce, then they can remarry. So the minority scholars like Ibn Taymiyyah, they would say this verse implies that the 3rd divorce following the previous 2 divorces, it means they should be apart. Then there are other evidences, but anyway, conclusion is, there are Abdullah ibn Abbas narration in Sahih Muslim, so on and so forth. Conclusion is the hardship that results, this group will going to bring, for forcing, if husband says, I divorce you, I divorce you, I divorce you. If you take the majority opinion, this group will say, it will going to dissolve the family immediately within 2 seconds. It is against the objectives of the Sharia. The other group will going to say, no, it's not against the objectives of the Sharia. So both the parties have their evidences. There's a contemporary independent Hanbali scholar, Sheikh Abdullah ibn Abbas, rahimahullah, who just passed away, Mufti Azam, 20, 25 years ago. I know some people, because of their groupism, they have issues with Sheikh ibn Abbas. Whatever the groupism or flavorism or partisanship you have, it should not blind us to take benefit from the genuine scholars we had, right? So he said, he was a Mufti Azam of Saudi. He said, it is also my view, even though he was a Hanbali, but independent Hanbali, he said, it is my view that 3 or 10 divorces in one gathering will be considered as one. Is that clear? The reason why I actually went into the detail is when you are in a setting of a group or scholars or students of knowledge who are discussing, let's say, learning Hanafi mazhab only, and they might not be even aware of this, or the other side's evidences, don't argue with them. Don't argue with them. That's very important. If you ask me, I personally follow Hanbali mazhab, I told you, but in the chapter of divorces, it's impossible for anyone, including myself, if I'm imam or making decisions for the community, to stay to the one mazhab. So for this one, I personally follow position of Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah. I'm telling you this without any embarrassment. Is that clear? Some people in my different communities, they start bashing me for this. I said I am still 100% Hanbali, but I do believe after reading the evidences, Ibn Taymiyyah position is more satisfactory for my heart. Okay, final thing before we can end. Actually, last 2 things before we can end. Divorce during menstruation. Is it haram? What do you think? Okay, is it valid? It will be haram according to everyone. But if you divorce your wife during menstruation, will it be valid? The answer is it will be valid according to all the 4 imams. Ibn Taymiyyah says it won't be valid. Wait a minute. Did you see why Ibn Taymiyyah is making it so easy? Like a liberal Maulvi in the 7th century? Did you see that? Every divorce, no, this doesn't count. This doesn't count. Have you seen that? Why he's doing this? Tell me. But there is one more issue, that's why he's preserving the marriage. At his time, when people were going to have this view that if you divorce your wife in just one setting, now they are divorced, family will going to come on the street, they will find other loopholes in Sharia that you can marry my friend, and then and then there was a disaster completely. Complete disaster. Because friend is saying, I'm not divorcing your wife, Habibi, after marrying. Complete disaster. He said, why are you playing around with Sharia? Sharia did not come for this reason. That we are becoming so lost in hyper-technicalities. So Ibn Taymiyyah made a deliberate effort to make sure that, to remove the rigidity coming from the tradition. That's why Ibn Taymiyyah was cancelled in some circles anyway. Uh, so divorce during menstruation, majority say it's valid and haram. Ibn Taymiyyah says it's invalid. Um, you know why I'm telling you this? This is important, subhanAllah. I don't have time to discuss the evidences. If you are convinced with this position, let's say that majority said the divorce will be valid in menstruation, and if you come to me, and if I am following the majority position, but if I see family is breaking apart, and Ibn Taymiyyah's opinion can save them, I should have humbleness if I know a masjid right next to me where an imam follows Ibn Taymiyyah's opinion and the family wants to reconcile seriously. I can say that this is my opinion. This is the opinion of Hanbali mazhab or Hanafi mazhab. But maybe go to that masjid and that masjid imam follows the other opinion within the mainstream and your family can be saved. It's not agreement, consensus. There's disagreement. So this should be doable by the people. If this is not your opinion, you can say, I cannot do this, but that imam can help you. You can do this. And back-to-back divorce, again. What is back-to-back divorce? I divorce my wife. Now her iddah starts. For iddah, we have a separate session. But then next day, another time, you'll divorce her again. According to majority, this divorce counts. But Ibn Taymiyyah says that this divorce doesn't count. Divorce, even if you divorce her during iddah for next 3 months, for 100 times, it will be just one divorce. Ibn Taymiyyah is making what? Divorce hard. Just remember where he is coming from. And later on, Hanabala, one group, not all, one group of Hanabala followed that position also. So it's not just only one person is doing this. Remember this. So again, I'm saying whenever any family comes to you, if you don't have knowledge, go to the imam who is ummah-centric, who is not willing to compromise on the agreement of the scholars. But if there is a flexibility in the opinions, that person should be able to gauge the situation and make a decision for the family, because this is not as easy as it sounds like, inshallah. Let's take a break. Let's stop here. Next time, inshallah, we're going to discuss fasq and then khula. Khul will come after fasq. Yes, any questions, sister? I'll come to you. Yes, brother Nadeem. They are husband and wife after first divorce because they are in the probation period. I'm just using my own English example. They are in the, after talaq raj'i, they are spending three menstrual cycle in the husband's house. The woman is spending until 3 menstrual cycle in the husband's house. The intention is maybe they will reconcile. So that was the phase where Ibn Taymiyyah says the other divorce won't be considered. And we're going to discuss about ruju, how you claim her back. Majority scholars say even if you just hug her without saying anything, then ruju happened. She's your wife again. They made it so easy. And they made divorce process not as easy as, okay, just call your attorney and then he will going to monetize your divorce. No, it's a little difficult because Islam knows the consequences. Any other question? Yes. Yes, Dr. Yaqub Ahmad is coming. You are getting flyers, sisters. You have the flyer? Alhamdulillah. So, by the way, Dr. Yaqub is one of my favorite historians, alhamdulillah. Last time, if you attended, you could have witnessed this, subhanAllah. He's coming from 7th to 9th February. Friday khutbah he will give here. Friday night he will be here. Saturday he will be here from 11 to 4. And Sunday he will be here from 9 to 1. He'll be discussing why Ottoman Empire collapsed, why the nation states came into existence, and what we can learn from that. It's very relevant, by the way, if you know what's going on in the world right now. And he's one of the leading authorities in the history. His schedule is behind the card. I would really urge you would come with your family, because in our time, in the information overload time, it's very, to get a genuine scholarship is difficult because of such an information overload. Every person is trying to make a YouTube video to monetize us, but genuine scholarship is rare these days, and he's one of the genuine historians. So please try to attend, inshallah ta'ala. Jazakumullah khairan. Next Thursday, we won't have class. Because of this, next Friday, we'll engage you. So inshallah, the following week, we'll have a class, inshallah. We skipped 2 topics from the rights. We went to the divorce, but I will text you on the WhatsApp if you are interested.